Hello? Excuse me. We will now be resuming the forum. Please find a seat.
Okay, so we ended with Ms. Winiarz, which will answer the question, how will you ensure the repair of roads?
Okay, the repair of roads. So, Member Schlick and I agree on a lot of things, actually. I think that the thing that we do not, especially if you have a concern about a road, because everything we do on the Lake County Board, it encompasses really 4 or 5 major things, and one of them is our infrastructure, which means our roads. And if you see a road that is not great, you should be reaching out to your representatives and letting them know. That's what we're here for, to represent you. So we very much agree on that. I think what one of the primary things we perhaps don't agree on, based on his last answer, is I am not happy with the condition of our roads. Things cost money, and if we want nice forest preserves, and if we want to maintain them, and we want them to be equitable, and they are not necessarily equitable right now, and if we want roads that we can drive on, we don't want a bottleneck when a new development happens, and suddenly roads that were very drivable before are now very congested. If we want these things, we have to pay for them. So I am not overly loving our roads right now, which is why I'm very, very excited about the new development of road development and construction that you have maybe heard about, and that Member Schlick did just reference. Where I live, right along Old McHenry Road, you can't really walk that. There's a park there. There's a huge park there. There's a farmer's market there. We need to improve all of that. So I'm very excited about improving our roads.
Thank you.
That's investment.
Candidate Winiarz, how are you going to encourage our young people to see the benefits of government service to assure future generations run for county board positions?
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. One of the things I mentioned before is how cool this is that you as the students are participating at this very civic, community level civic involvement. This is great. I wish that this was something that my son had done because he's always been very into civics and politics and serving. And what I would say to you is keep learning, keep listening, go to your local meetings. And if you can't go, watch them online. They're even time-stamped. They're time-stamped, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can go just scroll down and see, I do want to see what they're talking about with the budget. I want to see who attended. I want to see what the vote was, and I want to see what the argument was for or against whatever the issue is. Everything that they do on the board, and at every level of representation, is exactly that. Representation, talking about measures, talking about proposed, should we have a grocery tax? Should we reduce a gas tax? That's not necessarily the board, I'm just giving you an example. But all of the things that will affect you, you should know about, and the best way to know that is to watch the meetings, attend the meetings, and look at ways that you can participate by perhaps running. Michelle Obama said, do something. So I'm doing something, and I'm running. And I'm not nearly as young as any of you. So do something and get involved.
Thank you, Candidate Winiarz. Candidate Schlick, how are you going to encourage our young people to see the benefits of government service to assure future generations run for county board positions?
All right, excellent. It was an excellent question. And I can tell you that, as I know some of you probably view me as old, but I am often viewed as the youngest person on most of these elected boards that I'm on. And it really helps when you have somebody with a little bit different perspective, a little different life experience on these boards. So I can tell you, while you walk into a boardroom or you walk into anything, and you may see a group of folks that are older than you sitting on those boards, trust me, they care about your perspective. You bring something to the table that they don't have. And it's not that we may have kids your age, but that's different. You know, you all have different life experiences. So I would say, come in there, learn, give advice. The best thing you can do is listen too. You have to kind of listen to what's going on. I think a lot of times when people run for government positions, they come in with an issue, they come in with a problem. They don't listen, they don't understand what's going on. So that's the number one thing you can come in and do, is listen to what's going on, have some advice, and be part of the process. Because I can tell you, as somebody who's worked in government now, well, as a firefighter for well over 20 years, and now as a board member for over a decade, there is unique challenges in government that are very satisfying. It's very satisfying when you figure out how to make sure the roads get paved, how they get plowed, how to get clean drinking water. When you have a major sewer issue, I know that sounds gross and it's silly, but it's a fundamental service that people want. They want to make sure that they have all these utilities, and you, as working in government, can help them fulfill those. So it's very fulfilling. Show up to meetings, every level of meeting, Park District, Township, County. It's excellent work. I look forward to more engagement.
Thank you, candidate Schlick. Our next question is from the audience, and this will be for candidate Winiarz. How do you envision balancing the diverse needs and interests of our community, even if it doesn't accommodate to everyone's wants?
Can you repeat that?
How do you envision balancing the diverse needs and interests of our community, even if it doesn't accommodate to everyone's wants?
Very, very good question. You have to listen. You have to listen to your entire constituency. The entirety of my district is very diverse. We have some people who are living in very large homes on estates with horses and farms, and their homes cost $2, $3, $4 million. And then there are people in our district, same district, that have very different needs because they live in an apartment or they are living paycheck to paycheck. They don't own any property. They have different needs. The only way that I can truly serve everybody is to listen to everybody and be available. And that is something that I plan to be very, very proactive about, is be available and listen. And it's not just saying that you're listening. You have to actually digest what you're hearing and figure out how to turn it, how to take action on it. I'm going to have office hours every month. I plan to do that hopefully in a forest preserve, a different forest preserve every month, including in the cold months, and bring in speakers and make sure people can actually talk to me. My constituents, whether they're happy with me or not, need to be able to talk to me and tell me what is important to them, and that is how you represent.
Thank you, candidate Winiarz. Candidate Schlick, how do you envision balancing the diverse needs and interests of our community, even if it doesn't accommodate to everyone's wants?
It's a very excellent question. It's a very tough balancing act whenever you're in government. I have a little bit of experience, obviously. I harken back to my fire service career. I worked in Wakanda, which is a district which is very large. It's 48 square miles, but it's similar. We have a very diverse community. We have large estate-style homes where CEOs and business owners live, and then we have, lower economic housing where folks struggle a lot more. But their needs are the same when they're in need. You have to be able to help. You have to be able to be a guiding hand. And I don't believe that there's a one-size-fits-all answer. And that's the issue sometimes with government, is we can get pretty rigid. And that's not on the responsibility of the board member to work with staff to say, hey, how do we help this person with their individual need, right? And we have to be able to listen to what they need. We have to be able to understand what they're looking for, and then make sure that government can help them get to that, get to that finishing point. And sometimes it makes us have to change policies, and that's what we have to be about. We have to be flexible as a government to say, hey, this policy is not going to work for everybody, so we have to make sure that we're willing to change, we're willing to accept, to see it through another light, and see how we can help. I've been able to help a large array of different residents that have brought to me different challenges, and it's been one of the most rewarding part of the job is, whether it's the garbage didn't get picked up. I just had somebody whose house burned down, they were having trouble getting a permit, as their wife was getting ready to have their second child. So it's a lot of different unique things, and you have to kind of make sure you are the voice of reason with the county staff to help them. So thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Schlick. Candidate Schlick, what unique perspectives or experiences do you bring that will help the board address both current challenges and future opportunities for our organization?
Excellent question. So I think the number one thing I bring to the table is experience. I've been an elected official since 2013, from the Forest Preserve to Village Wakanda and the county board. I think there's been a period of time in our government here in our politics where people look at experience as a bad thing. I don't think you want somebody doing something for the first time at certain levels. I'm not going to go to the doctor's office and say I can perform brain surgery because I watched it on YouTube. So I think there's a level of experience that you expect out of your government officials to not fall into some of the pitfalls that you can fall into. There's a lot of things I can harken back on to my experience, even at the Park District. You know, the Park District was a smaller budget, we were a smaller staff. Of course, there's obviously much larger, but some of the challenges we deal with are very similar. You know, what we're dealing with runoff, how we're going to do, you know, different recreation, different activities. So you really can, I can fall back on a lot of things I've done, a lot of the connections I've made. I have a great deal amount of friends that are serving other local elected offices, even up to the state level. A couple friends that, you know, work on staffs over in Washington that they're just great contacts to have, great resources when you're looking for something. You don't have to pay a consultant, which would cost the county money and cost whatever organization you work with. I can rely on my friends. I'll buy them a soda or something else to say, hey, help me out with this challenge. Especially when you got lawyer friends. They're the best ones to have. Is you get some free legal advice. So that's what I bring to the table. I harken back on my experience to kind of help the county move through some of our challenging times.
Thank you, Candidate Schlick. Candidate Winiarz, what unique perspectives or experiences do you bring that will help the board address both current challenges and future opportunities for our organization?
Thank you for the question. I have worked, when we talk about experience, I have worked in business for a very large business services company for the past 30 years in the same business. In fact, it's the third largest business in the world behind only Walmart and Amazon. Accenture is the third largest with 750,000 people. As a change manager, as a product manager, as somebody who has to navigate, I know how to navigate change. I know how to not only communicate, but be communicated with, and how to take the information I've given and take action on it and deliver and stand up for sometimes a difficult answer. My business and community involvement, not to mention my work on for the District 95 schools. I led multiple programs and led charitable and civic programs. My business and community involvement and experience is very, very strong. And it's prepared me, I think quite uniquely between the two of us, to be a great representative for this area. I do look forward to doing that, and I think it should also go without saying that I would go to the meetings. And in this particular race, I think it needs to be emphasized that hard decisions and hard votes may need to be taken, but the least that can be expected is to actually attend the meetings. And when you've missed 20 to 25% of your meetings, I'm not sure that you can really do that and speak for people as well. So that is how I will represent, and that is how I will bring. That's what I will bring to
Thank
the
you,
board.
Candidate Winiarz. Your next question is, how will you keep the constituents informed and they get their input prior to a decision at the county level? How will you do these for the constituents that are Spanish speaking?
That's a great question. I really take outreach seriously. I take going out into the community seriously. The job is not just showing up and making decisions. The job is understanding what needs to be done. And the only way to do that is to talk to people, as I've said before. And I have now spoken to thousands of people, thousands of homes. I have knocked on thousands of doors. And I've talked to so many people. And when they are Spanish speaking and Polish speaking, Romanian, Ukrainian, I have run into many different ethnicities and folks who are citizens and don't speak the language. That's rough. I am on my phone with Google Translate because sometimes you just got to get it done. It might not be pretty, but that's the way you do it. And I have been able to communicate. And when I have my outreach sessions, I plan to look for ways to translate well. Translators cost money. Like I said, things cost money. But there are creative ways to do things. I also have friends who are Spanish speaking and Polish speaking. No Romanian speakers yet, but I know that I can find friends too. And I definitely will be engaging help on that level. It's paramount. Just because you don't speak English doesn't mean that your needs aren't as important. They still need to be heard, and that is what I plan to do during my outreach and my office hours.
Thank you, Candidate Winiarz. Candidate Schlick, how will you keep the constituents informed, and get their input prior to a decision at the county level. How will you do these for your constituents that are Spanish speaking?
That is an excellent question, and I will definitely say it's something that the county board, government in general, we struggle at. When I was on the village board of Wakanda, we got a lot better, making sure that our publications went out in English and Spanish. At the county board level, we are starting to realize, hey, it's not just English and Spanish. We have to have other languages like Polish, Ukrainian, many other Slavic languages. We have to do a lot better job of communicating. We're working on making sure our meetings can have subtitles that are translated. It is something that is definitely a work in progress that we have to get better at. We have to understand that we're a evolving community, we're a melting pot community, that people come to Lake County because it's a great place to live. You can live in a safe community, you can make a decent wage here, you can have a nice home. So we have to understand that we have to be able to communicate. It's something I look forward to doing a lot better. I've talked with Anthony Vega. If you guys don't know Anthony, he's our county clerk. And Anthony has done a phenomenal job this election cycle, doing a lot of things with making sure our non-English or English as a second language speaking folks have the information out there. So I would drill down on folks like Anthony to help figure out how we drive that in the future on the county level, and help people like me that, I only speak English, so it's tough for me. I'd be willing to listen and willing to work. That's going to be the best thing. And if you folks have a great idea, I'm always willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schlick, how can Lake County Board help law enforcement?
Excellent question. So we have a premier law enforcement agency in Lake County, the Lake County Sheriff's Office. The men and women of the Sheriff's Office are some of the most outstanding police officers in the state. We do our best to make sure that they have all the assets they need, the training they need to do everything, to do a very difficult job. We've gone through a tough period in our country where policing gets very heavily scrutinized, and it should. There are times where officers they're not carrying out their job. They're doing things that we don't agree with. They're targeting people they shouldn't target. We have to make sure that we as an agency are prepared to handle those situations, and that we have the staff that can identify that and make sure they act for the proper resources and proper training. I think for me, dealing in the public safety sector, it's paramount that we have a well-trained and well-equipped law enforcement. So I look forward to working with Sheriff Heidelberg some more. I think obviously there's some challenges with other things with dispatch that we can get over, because I don't think that has anything to do with how we're going to respond to calls, as men and women in the police force. But I look forward to making sure the police department has every resource they need going forward.
Thank you. Candidate Winiarz, how can Lake County Board help law enforcement?
Thank you, Alfonso. So I don't necessarily agree that there's not more work to be done with our law enforcement. Crime is down in Lake County, and that is a fact, thanks to the Safety Act, and thanks to the work that Eric Reinhardt has done in the State's Attorney's Office, and that includes violent crime, down, that's a fact. That includes sexual assault, it's down, that's a fact. However, we need more people in the Sheriff's Office, more people at the jails. We have plenty of beds at the jails, but we don't have the workers there. We don't have enough people in the State's Attorney's Office to do as much work as needs to be done in order to continue keeping crime down, which they worked so hard to do. So, and that's what I mean by making that investment. Things cost money, and the compensation study that was done for the last 2 years for county personnel shows that county workers across the board are not paid at the market levels that they should be, that they are paid in other counties. So I would work on providing more budget for them so that they can be paid to that level, so that we can continue the downward trend of crime. We don't want that to change. So we need to invest in that, and that is how I would support the State's Attorney's Office and Sheriff Heidelberg. Also, the 911 consolidation that just happened is huge, and that's my
Candidate Winiarz. Your next question is, what core values will you plan to invest your time in the most?
Oh, my core values. I have a lot of core values. You want me to pick one? Wasn't expecting that question. I care about how people live and what their quality of life is. I think we all have a love language, and I think mine is definitely outreach and talking to people and listening to them. I might not always remember your name. I hope there's not a test later for all of us here, because I will fail. But I really care about hearing what they have to say, whether I agree with them or not. When I knock on doors and I have a Republican who's angry at me because I'm not a Republican, that's okay. I want to hear what they have to say so I know how to help them. Because that will be the job, whether they vote for me or not, is to represent them. So I need to be here for them. So I think my greatest core value, I don't know if it's my greatest core value, but off the top of my head, I think the core value that speaks to me the most is going to be interaction. I keep repeating that, and because it really does need to be repeated. The interaction with my constituents, with people, is going to be, for me, paramount. So I think that's probably my core value, is respect for the individual and seeking to understand before insisting on being understood.
Thank you, Candidate Winiarz. Candidate Schlick, what core values will you plan to invest your time in the most?
Thank you. So I think, the one thing I hang my hat on the most is my ethics. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And I'm willing to have a conversation. I don't look to deceive. I don't ever look to mislead anybody in a direction. That means having tough conversations sometimes. And admitting you're wrong when somebody has really shown you, hey, there's other ways of thinking about that. It's something I'm very proud of. It's something that I was raised, by a great mother and a great father to instill in me that you can't get anywhere if you're not an ethical person. And I think in government, that's the very least we can expect of our government officials. And we see violations of ethics every day. We've seen them on the county board and previous boards. It's something, if you can't have the fundamental trust in the ethics of who you were trusting with your tax dollars and to form policy, this isn't going to work. It'll fall apart at the seams. So I'm very proud of my ethics. I think I've proven it over the time. I've never had issues. If you ever watch them that's had an issue with me, it's because they don't agree with me, and that's fine. We're not meant to agree on everything. But I will listen to your disagreement, and we'll just part ways if it's not going to work. But I look forward to just keeping, being a good-hearted person, a good ethical person, and bringing that to the board and making sure all the decisions we make, clear the ethic values that I've had instilled in me for many years. So thank you.
Thank you. This next question is from our audience. Candidate Schlick, what can the Lake County Board do to support the LGBTQ+ community?
Great question. It's a community that, obviously I don't know a ton about. I'm not a member of that community. I have a few friends that are, and it's where you have to listen. You have to understand the challenges, because I don't know those challenges. I think, we have to be open. You can't be set in your values. I know some folks on my side of the aisle scoff at pronouns, but if, calling somebody by a pronoun makes them more comfortable, I don't think that's a very big ask for you to be a good human being. So I rely on listening to what I can do to better help, make your life as comfortable as possible, and help you reach your best life, whatever that is. So I look forward to getting to know more members of the community and listening to see what their challenges are and how we can best serve, and hopefully bringing some clarity to folks that maybe don't understand it as much.
Thank you. Candidate Winiarz, what can the Lake County Board do to support the LGBTQ+ community?
I love this question. I am a passionate supporter and ally to LGBTQ+ individuals. I was actually raised with lots of my parents' friends who were members of the LGBTQ community. I was part of the Gay Lesbian Alliance in college, even though I was only an ally. I didn't identify as part of the community, but I was an ally. And to this day, I am an ally at my job at Accenture, where I lead programs that are part of the enterprise working groups. There's many of those in a large company, and the Pride working group. I lead those programs as an ally. I'm passionate about this subject Not because I have any personal skin in the game, but because it's human and it's humane. And it is absolutely something that should just be, again, back to respect for the individual. The LGBTQ Center is in Grays Lake, and for those of you who are not aware of it, it is a wonderful resource. I've learned from them that one of the primary problems for the LGBTQ community is homelessness, right here in Lake County. Not just homelessness, but homeless teens, where their families do not accept them, and they have problems in the home, or even perceived problems, but in other words, they're homeless. Unemployment is a huge problem with the LGBTQ plus community. I will encourage the board to work with the LGBTQ plus Center in Grays Lake, and I will.
Thank you.
And I will do much more than just that.
Thank you. The next question is, the last question before the closing statements is, over the last few years, the county board has added committees such as the environmental committee. Are there any additional committees that you feel should be formed to address issues not currently being considered for Winiarz?
New committees that I feel should be formed?
Yes.
I don't know. I think an acceptable answer is I don't know, rather than trying to grab something out of the air. As a candidate, when you are a challenger, as opposed to an incumbent like Adam, when you're a challenger, there's lots of things you don't know. There's also lots of things you learn and you do know, but there are things you don't often know. And I would be very eager to form a new committee if it was needed. I will have my eye on all the committees, and if I'm elected, I'm going to be assigned where they assign me, and that is going to give me a huge view into far more of the deep cuts of the details of the work that the board does on an everyday basis. You can, as a challenger, challenging an incumbent, you can get as knowledgeable as you can, but until you're there doing the job, you're not going to know all of the things that are needed. And so a new committee, I would be very much for a new committee if that committee was beneficial for the advancement of Lake County. If it's only going to, if a new committee for new committee's sake is not a great idea. That just makes things more complicated. It adds more levels of layers of complication and administrative overhead. So if it's needed, I'm there. I would advocate for it. If it's not needed, I would not. And I won't know until I get there, but I'll have my eye on it.
Thank you, candidate Winiarz. Candidate Schlick, over the last few years, I'll ask the question, are there any additional committees that you feel should be formed to address issues not currently being considered?
It's excellent. So I don't necessarily, we've had some conversations here recently, and I don't know that it's going to necessitate a new committee, maybe more just making it fit into another committee, whether it's, in the Building Planning, Zoning, and Environment Committee, which I sit on, or maybe Finance and Administration. We have to really start drilling down some of our technology. And I think when we think about technology, we sit there and we think about, computers, phones. I think it has to be a higher level than that. And I think it really starts looking at, what the AI boom is looking like, right? How is the county going to, and I think people look at AI sometimes as a dangerous, I don't view it as dangerous, I view it as an opportunity, as something maybe the county can utilize that data to make better informed decisions. So I don't know that it necessitates a brand new committee centralized on just technology, but I would like to see one of our committees start hammering down more on how we're going to deal with that. We had just a line item thrown in the budget, this past budget hearing that we just had, that was about $300,000, $500,000 allocated towards AI with no real explanation from our IT department. It ultimately looks like it's going to get cut out, but I think it started a conversation that has to be had, and I look forward to having that conversation, because I do think technology is the one thing that governments, we lag on a little bit sometimes. We're kind of antiquated, we're stuck in our ways, we don't utilize information as well as we should. So I look forward to building on technology, specifically, artificial intelligence, and how we can better utilize it.
Thank you, candidate Schlick. We will now be starting closing statements, starting with candidate Winiarz.
So thank you again to all of you, Alfonso, Jocelyn, Judy, thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you, Adam, for the discussion. When you sign up for public service, you sign up to represent what is important not only to yourself, or to your party, frankly, but what's important to your constituents. And sometimes those things are mutually exclusive. I am Adam's constituent, and he does not know necessarily what's important to me. And I do not necessarily know what's important to all of my constituents either, and I'm going to learn, because that's going to be the job. The thousands of people I have talked to in the community know who I am. They've met me, they know what I'm going to represent in their interests, and that I'm going to advocate to reduce gun violence, which we haven't talked about much, that I'm going to keep them safe from crime, that I'm going to be transparent in my stewardship of their tax dollars, and that I'm going to be a fierce advocate for our reproductive freedom, something else we haven't really discussed, for all people. Should any measure ever come before us, not that there are any measures today, but if they were to, I will stand up for that fiercely. And I'm going to do the work. I'm going to attend meetings. I'm going to do the work for the people. I am fortunate, if I am fortunate enough, to be elected on November 5th, I will not collect a salary for work I'm not doing. I'll attend the meetings, I will do the job, and I will represent my Lake County neighbors. Thank you so much for having me.
Candidate Schlick, your time.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, everyone, moderators, for a wonderful job. Students for being active listeners. That is very important. It felt very well listened to. So thank you for that. Thank you, Hilary, for sitting with me today. We don't get an opportunity to do this very often, so it's very enlightening. I look forward to serving 4 years on Lake County Board. I've had 2 years, and in those 2 years, I've learned so much. It's been like consuming information from a fire hose. There's been so much that has to happen, so much to understand, not only from the government side of things, but from the residents. And I think I've done a really good job of listening and being, I always like to point out, when you see me in the meetings, when you do see me at the meetings, I attend hundreds of meetings, it's a lot of them. You'll see that I'm the guy that's listening more than I am talking. I'm listening to what the staff is saying, I'm listening to what the board members say. I take that same approach when I'm out in the community. I listen to what my constituents has to say. I listen to everything, Ms. Winiarz has to say every day. However this election shakes out, I'm either her board member or she is my board member. We have to be able to have that conversation and listen. And I look forward to doing that, and I think I've shown a good history of doing that. I stand on a lot of things I've accomplished and a lot of records I've had, a lot of accomplishments at the county board level, and I want to, grow those and work with the county staff and county board members more, and grow my constituency. I love listening to you guys. This is a new opportunity that, I want to build on a little bit more. So I look forward to serving everyone on the Lake County Board, and at the very least, get out there and vote. That's the best thing you can do. Vote. Even if you don't agree with somebody, get out there and vote, because the actions happen here on the local level. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
What he said.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, so much for joining us today. Thank you all for attending and submitting your questions. Our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is a great way for you to empower yourself to make an informed decision on election day. I would encourage you to access the websites for Lake County Clerk and the Illinois Voter Guide for key dates and election information as you make your plan on where and how to vote. We hope that you all will vote and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Voting is a fundamental responsibility of American citizenship. So express your preference by voting for the candidates of your choice by mail or during early voting or on election day, November 5th, 2024. Good afternoon.
Audience, from us to you, great audience. Thank you.